Okay, this is the second part of Lab number 4's demo. And as you can see, I've copied text from slide 3 into the table in slide 4. And it's pretty tedious to do it, but I basically just selected copy and then I pasted it right here and in the table. And that took care of it for me. And so if you haven't done that, go ahead and pause the video and take some time, copy over the text until you get caught up, and you should see what I see on slide 4. All right, so when we started in the first demo, we played around with design ideas. And right now, my theme isn't very cohesive, and I want to kind of just get that squared away right now. And so what I'm going to do is, just for myself, I'm going to select this theme right here, which is retrospect, because I like the colors. And notice that it does change a little bit in terms of my title slide. In fact, a lot of it. And so what I'll do for slide 1 is go back to design ideas and select this. And I kind of like this, and this works fine in terms of the layout. And I'll leave it as it is and close it and then save my work. It's really important that your presentation have a cohesive look and feel. So now I'm back to slide 4, and you know, I've taken this text from 3 and I put it in 4. Notice that a long list like this is very difficult to read if you're presenting face-to-face or in a webinar. And so I put everything in a table, and I like the table. The only difference is that I need to work a little bit on the design. And so I have some options in terms of color scheme, etc., that I'm working with. And then with layout or what have you. What I'm concerned with more than anything is the size of the fonts. So this is a headline right here, and it should be much bigger. So I'm going to bring this up to about 30 or so. Let's try 32. And so I need to resize the columns to make that work, and that's working. And the text in the cells is 18 point. I want to bring them up to about 24. And notice what that does. That changes a lot. It expands the table, etc. And so I'm going to have to compromise a little bit. What's better? Maybe about 24 point will work if I want to do that. It does kind of make it hang off the slide, but it still works and it's still legible. Some other things I can do is select the text in the cell and then make it bold. And I can do that for everything, right? Make them all bold. I can get rid of the negative space by decreasing the size of the columns. And then at that point, I can take the entire table. If I click on the border, here I get this double cross, and I can center it. And so now I've used a table to organize information. And there's a lot of things that's kind of a one purpose of a table, organizing information. I want to align these numbers center, so I click and drag and select the range of cells in that table and then center align. And now we really got a better looking slide with a 10-step process. And if we delete slide 3, we go from the introduction to the 10-step process that's organized in a table. It's much easier to read than it was in that big list. That looked pretty good right there. And when it appears on the slide, it makes a whole lot more sense. So go ahead and save your work. And so we've taken a look at tables and creating a table in PowerPoint, just like anything, we can click the Insert tab, select Insert Table. You have to select the number of rows and columns here, and then insert the table. You can draw a table, or you can insert an Excel spreadsheet, which we'll take a look at in a few minutes. And so we've done the ABCs of tables, but what if we wanted to add the rest of the content? So bring up your Word document, and you can see that for each of these items in the table, there would be an associated slide. So we really need about 10 more slides, right? And let's look at slide number 1 and the information from slide number 1. Often you will create a lot of your content up front in Word and then just copy it over. And so if we needed to insert a slide, how would we do that? We could quickly insert a slide by just selecting Insert and then picking the layout, which let's pick out a layout with a title and content, and that keeps our layout consistent. From the sorter view, we can also insert slides. So if we're on slide 4, we can select Insert Slides, and we have the option to insert another slide, or we can duplicate selected slides. So we selected slide 4, which is text, header, and text or other objects. We know that we need at least 10 of these, so we could simply just select Duplicate Selected Slides. Or if we wanted to, we could shift click to select multiple slides, like 4 and 5, and then from Home, click on the Home tab and select Copy. And then we know that we're in the sorter view, we can pick the point where we want to insert the slides. So we could insert them after slides 5 and 6, and then paste, and that's 2, then 4, then 6, then 8. We needed a total of 10, right? 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, and 10. So now we have 10 additional slides. Of course, they're blank, but we need to add the content. So again, there are a variety of ways to do it. Just pick one of those ways, and let's insert 10 slides so that we can add the narrative and text for each of the steps in the process. So I want to start on slide 4, which is step 1, and if I double click, then it takes me to slide 4. I can bring up my Word document. The title of step 1 is Step 1, Check Your Credit Score. So I want to select Control C and then paste it. Now, what did that do? It kind of inserted the text using somewhat of the format that I already had in the Word document. And I don't want to do that because then I have to change it, right? And so under Paste, I have the option of either pasting the destination theme, keeping the source format, and it pastes the destination theme, but it kind of kept the format, or just pasting as text only. And then here we can see it definitely kept the format, right? And then paste. Because when we look at the heading here, step 1, it's Calibri light headings, and then down here Calibri light headings. And so let's just keep the same formatting for now. And then we want to insert the text. And so we've got a little bit of a preamble here before the bullet points, so we can copy that and go over and then paste it. And then back to the Word document, we can actually copy and paste from Word a bulleted list. But it didn't copy the bullets, right? They're kind of like invisible. Even though it's still showing that it's a bulleted list, it doesn't always copy it correctly. And so You know, what I want to do is apply the bullets, and depending on the theme, they may not always work. So let's do this. Let's just go ahead and we're going to say paste special and keep the text only. And notice how it kept the bullets as either way, regardless. And so sometimes it's a little quirky and it does things that you wouldn't expect it to do. But it still did. And let's just go ahead and we'll select the regular bullets. Okay. Now we have our body text. And what we want to do is add some decorative art. Like here we want to check our credit score. That's step 1. Right? So how do we insert an image? Well, for one, this may not have been the best layout to use. So we can go back, and if we wanted, we could change the layout of the slide, right? We could change it to to content, right? So let's do that. And then we see what happens, right? And now we get one placeholder here on the left and another one where we can add either text or table or chart. Let's insert a graphic. So if we click insert pictures, it's going to look for us to insert a picture. Or we can select insert from here and select pictures or online pictures. All right, let's go ahead from here, select online pictures because it's similar to what's in the images group under insert. And we'll select online pictures. And so we'll give it time to load. And let's see if Bing has some pictures for us. Let's type credit score. Let's see what we get. Okay. And so I don't want to imply anything for anyone. Here there's some images that haven't completely loaded. But I don't want to imply good or bad credit. I want something that's more decorative in nature, right? So why don't we use like this graphic, even though it shows the 810, and then insert. And let's see what we get. Well, when we use art from the web, we get attribution, which means that we get information on the artist and how the photo is licensed. Technically, you should include this information, but because you're students, you can probably get away with it because of fair use, and we're going to use this graphic. So let's go ahead and save our work. So what we did is we selected a different layout, which is 2 columns, and we inserted the graphic. Now, this graphic looks great, but it's just kind of sitting there and it's flat. There's some elegance to simplicity, but what are our options for formatting the graphic so that we can dress it up? Well, if we click and select the graphic, there are a couple of things we could do. We can rotate the graphic if we wanted to. We could scale it down and scale it up. So if we have multiple graphics, we can change the scale. And I'm going to Control Z to undo that. But the most power you get in formatting graphics is to select the graphic and then go to the Formatting tab. And then we have all kinds of options. We can do things like if we upload our own photo or even the photos here, we can sharpen or soften the photo, and as we hover we get a picture of what that looks like. So if we sharpen it a little bit, it looks good. We can adjust the color and contrast and brightness. This is sort of like a wizard, and it does everything for us. Okay, let's make it a little, let's just leave it at default and it's sharp. We can change the color, saturation, tone, or even recolor it if we wanted to do that. But in this case, I don't see any reason to do that. We can add artistic effects, which you can play with those. We can change the transparency, making the graphic blend with the background. But I don't want to do that either. There's all kinds of things. We can sort and browse for another file if we want to use it. We can reset the picture. Let's say we add all these different adjustments. We want to reset it back to its original size and contrast and color. We can reset it. What I really like to work with is the picture styles. And so when we click this drop down arrow under picture styles, we have different styles that we can apply to the picture. And if you hover over them, you see what they look like. Metal frame, drop shadow, reflected round rectangle. Well, I want this to be really user friendly because talking about buying a home is stressful. So maybe we can make this look like we're looking at photos that are just in a photo album. So I like this rotated white. So I select it and then save your work. So now we've inserted our text and the graphic that we like. We've organized the information visually and using the design tips that are available for us. We use organized information in a table so it's more legible and easy, much easier to chunk, and it helps us organize our presentation. And now we start editing and creating our slides. Okay, so let's do that one more time. What's the next item on the list? Well, figure out how much house you can afford. And since we all live in Silicon Valley, we know there's not a whole lot that we can do. So let's just copy this. And we're going to go to the next slide. And we'll do just paste. And we're going to just paste using the theme format. And then we can go back to our Word document and we can use an affordability calculator. Let's copy this. And that's going to be basically just one bullet, right? And we'll go ahead and paste that as text. Use an affordability calculator. And it doesn't have to be a bullet, because bulleted item, because it's all by itself. The font is kind of small, and so I could format it inline by selecting 24 or what have you. We will see later that we can change the theme and adjust the font. For now, just leave it as a default font. And you can go ahead and leave it as a bulleted item if you want. It's up to you, completely up to you. Right now, we're just working with the mechanics. So save your work, and let's insert one more picture. So let's say figuring out how much house you can afford, that's a big headline, right? How about this? Figure out how much you can afford. Let's get rid of the house. Or let's just say, how much can you afford for step 2? Or how much home can you afford? And so sometimes we make changes in our presentation, and to keep it parallel, we want to copy this and then go back, and then we want to change it so that it's the same, right? And so now I'll go back, and let's say we want to insert another photo here. Well, let's probably see if we can find a photo of someone who looks puzzled. Like, holy smokes, how much home can I afford? That's probably the most confusing part of buying a home. So how do we insert a photo? Talk me through it. Oh, did I hear you say you select Insert on the ribbon, and then we're going to use online pictures again. And from here, we're going to search. It's taking it a while to load. Right? And so let's go back and see if it's going to bring up the search box. We'll insert online pictures. There it goes. And let's say, let's type confused person. There we go. So those look pretty good, huh? I kind of like this one. So let's insert this, and we'll insert the photo. And now we can see that this photo is very big, right? It's a large graphic. How do we adjust it? Well, we can click and drag it and skip up the handle. So left click on the handle till you see the double arrow and resize it, and then place it where you want it. And if I want, we can get rid of this attribution. And how do I format now this photograph? We'll click on Format on the ribbon. And if I want to use that same kind of photo frame, I can do that. Looks pretty good, right? And what I'll do is rescale it a little bit. And there it is. Now this photo is kind of blurry, right? So we can do some things like look at the corrections and see if we can sharpen it a little bit. See how much that's much sharper. And that looks a whole lot better. So let's go ahead and save. And so I want you to repeat those steps for the remaining 8 slides, and then save your work. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at inserting a table from Excel. And we're going to look at it 2 ways. So this concludes part 2. Make sure you save your work, and the third part will be a lot shorter and you'll be done with this presentation. So eliminate confusion, again, if there's any. Make sure that you insert slides for the remaining 8 steps, save your work, and then watch video 3 to talk about the mortgage payment example.